Elon Musk is the master of monopolies. That's how he became so rich. Let me preface that statement by saying this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Some industries are what's called natural monopolies, where it really only makes sense to have one provider of that good or service. Adding more would actually be harmful. For instance, wireless internet over the same frequency. You can't just set up two towers from different companies right next to one another on the same frequency. Otherwise, there will be huge interference on that frequency, so it is better to just have one tower in the area. You could possibly rent that tower out to multiple internet service providers, and that would be a way for some competition. Elon Musk has done great at finding such industries. And I'll also say, I actually like Elon Musk. The thumbnail is just clickbait so that the YouTube algorithm doesn't send me to the shadow realm. His first notable monopoly, co-founding PayPal, and nowadays we don't even think of PayPal as anything revolutionary, but it was a new idea to merge the power of email with financial transactions, and they were the first to execute it well. This is a natural monopoly because it's a nuisance to create a new account for a bunch of different services that do the same thing, and others need to be using the service already for you to send a payment or receive a payment. Next up, Tesla isn't a monopoly yet, but it's getting there. Car manufacturers have been an oligopoly for a long time, and they barely innovate at all. Tesla went in from a completely different angle, attacking from the electric car standpoint and using a completely different form of self-driving technology sensors that are significantly cheaper than other companies trying to train self-driving vehicles, which can make the cars affordable for more normal people, not just these huge companies that are throwing money at the wall and hoping it sticks. Electric vehicles were the entry selling point that allowed them to break into the oligopoly. That was pretty difficult. Artificial intelligence is a selling point that will allow them to monopolize the industry. How AI works is basically natural selection on steroids. First, you build a robot that randomly builds robots with different traits. Next, you build a robot that tests those robots for the traits you want. To build a test, you need lots of data. That way you can ask the robots as many questions as possible. If you have a billion questions to ask it, you probably should. That way you will have a more accurate assessment. You'll have an absurdly large number of new robots taking the test every time to see which ones get the highest score. So the longer the test, the more accurate the selected robots come out. Those robots are then used as the parents for the next generation. They'll keep their traits and add on another random mutation and try again. This is all without deep learning, which makes the process significantly more complicated and uses math to lower the compute power needed. Now, let's go back. What does Tesla have that other self-driving car companies don't? Huge piles of data, because every Tesla on the road is out collecting data for them. This will cause their AI to develop faster. And once they have the first fully autonomous self-driving car, and that's cheap enough for most consumers to purchase, they have cemented themselves as the monopoly in self-driving cars. It could be that someone else gets there first with their $300,000 car or something with those weird sensors, but most people can't buy them, so what's the point? Then people will buy their cars because their AI is the best, which in turn generates more data for them and makes their AI stronger. This cycle continues, allowing little to no competition in the market. Similar to Google with search engines and YouTube with its recommendation algorithm. Tesla is also leading the market in battery innovation, which is arguably even more important than the automobile industry, and the same thing goes for solar, but we don't know how those will turn out yet. He's also creating a monopoly at SpaceX, not in space travel, which looks to be a natural oligopoly currently, but in satellite internet service through Starlink. Satellite internet is great for extremely rural communities and places that are not connected to cabled internet grids, although normally it comes with a few main problems. First off, the internet is slow because there just aren't many satellites providing the internet, so they can't hold many users, but a lot of users are using them still, so they have to split the internet down to be really low speeds. This is due to satellite launches being extremely expensive. Second off, the latency is extremely bad. Think about 100 milliseconds to start, whereas most normal internet service would be under 20 milliseconds. This is due to normal satellite internet being geostationary orbit, which is really far away. If the satellite is far away, it takes a long time for the information to travel to get there, but can provide service to a huge area. Starlink takes a different approach with low Earth orbit satellites in a constellation. That way it can keep covering those areas, and whenever one satellite passes over, another one will come in to cover it. And these are much closer to the Earth, but also provide less coverage area each. Therefore, they're going to need more satellite. This also fixes a lot of the download and upload speed problems because each satellite covers less customers, which means the speeds are getting split up less. And it supposedly will have one more upside when it's fully completed: the lowest latency possible for information crossing the sea and in certain areas where there are a lot of mountains. This is just theoretical currently, but the thought is, due to undersea cables going through paths that aren't straight, Starlink will have a straighter path for the information to be transmitted through for long distances, meaning it'll get there faster. Air is also faster to transmit data than through glass, which is what fiber is made out of. But current Starlink satellites aren't built with the most cutting edge tech, so those gains aren't fully realized with this. Now, what's shaving a millisecond or two matter off that latency? It matters a lot to robot stock traders. They are always trying to beat other robot stock traders. That way they can make more money by buying or selling first when new information is available. These companies will pay top dollar for this connection because if they can beat their competition by 1 millisecond even, they're the ones who make most of the money here. This likely isn't a solve-all solution for everyone's internet though. As more people sign up for Starlink, the overall internet speed will decrease as the satellite's total capacity is split among users, unless they keep launching more satellites to keep up with demand, which opens up a whole new slew of problems, like them running into each other. It will, however, be significantly better for people with no other internet options, most notably, as I mentioned before, ultra rural areas and poor areas that aren't connected to the main internet lines. This type of internet provides a huge barrier to entry, even more so than most types of internet currently, in the upfront capital costs and necessity of a company that can get satellites to space, along with satellite crowding, keeping new competitors out in the future. You don't want satellites crashing into each other. And that's not all he's up to. Two other notable companies that may turn out to be monopolies that he is working on are his Boring Company and Neuralink. Both are extremely high-tech companies, one being neuroscience, literally brain surgery, and the other being high-tech solutions for the cheapest way to dig tunnels. So, it's just digging a hole, but figuring out a complicated way that makes that easier. And then the goal with that is to have cars travel through those tunnels. We have no idea how either of those will turn out currently, unlike the other examples mentioned, but they're worth keeping an eye on with how many other fields he has succeeded in. The Boring Company currently has no notable competition, but Valve, the gaming behemoth, is working on the same technology as Neuralink. Valve generally keeps this type of thing under wraps, but it looks like Neuralink is ahead from what we can see so far, but we don't know. All right, that's all. If you liked this video, please leave a like and subscribe for more. It helps a lot with the YouTube algorithm.